It was the beginning of the first millennium BC. In the Indian subcontinent, great philosophic ideas which were to last forever were being crystallized. The material world which we see around us was considered Maya or Mithya, an illusion. The high purpose of life was to rise above these limitations, to lift the veils of illusion and to see beyond, thereby to break the spell of the transitory world or samsara. In this age, numerous thinkers gave up the attractions of the material world to search for the truth. They left behind their material possessions and their emotional bonds with their families. They sought to be free of the endless pursuit of desires in the material world. The greatest renunciator of the period was Gautama Siddhartha, known as the fourth or the seventh Buddha or enlightened one. Millions of his followers continue till today as one of the greatest religions of the world, Buddhism.
Gautama Siddhartha was one of humanity's wisest teachers. He was born in 563 BC, the son of Suddhodana, the ruler of the Shakya clan. Suddhodana ruled from the town of Kapilavastu, in the present-day state of Uttar Pradesh in India. The site of Kapilavastu has been excavated near the villages of Pipravaha and Ganveria. Before Gautama was born, it is believed that his mother, Queen Maya, had a dream. In her sleep, she saw a white elephant entering her womb. Asita, the court astrologer, was told about the dream. He said, "Queen Maya, you will have a son. He will be destined for greatness in whichever path he chooses, whether as a great king or as a renunciator and savior of mankind." Thus, the arrival of a great being was heralded. Just before she was to give birth, Queen Maya set out for her father's town, Devadaha. On the way, she halted in a grove at Lumbini, which is in present-day Nepal. Here, as she reached up to take support of a branch of a sal tree, a son was born from under her raised arm. When he was born, the child took 7 steps towards the north and said, "I am one who will tread the path taken by others before me." Ashoka, the great Indian emperor of the 3rd century BC, erected a pillar at Lumbini to commemorate this sacred site. After his birth, Queen Maya bathed in a pond, and Gautama is said to have been given an abhisheka, or ritual shower by mythical creatures. Gautama led a princely life and was kept away from all the pains and miseries of the world. His parents were afraid of the possibility that he may renounce the world to become an ascetic. However, Gautama had an innate thoughtful nature and an inclination towards meditation. At the age of 29, his life took a different turn. On separate occasions, while he was driven outside the palace by his charioteer, he saw 4 sights which set him thinking. He saw a very old and feeble man, an extremely sick man, and a dead man being taken for cremation. As he was sheltered from the realities of life, these sights stunned him. He realized that all pleasure was transitory. On a 4th occasion, he saw an ascetic whose face was serene. Gautama decided to renounce the fleeting pleasures of the world. In the stillness of the night, Gautama bade a silent farewell to his sleeping wife and son. He left the palace quietly on his horse Kantaka, accompanied by his charioteer Chandaka. It is said that celestial beings cushioned his horse's hooves as he rode, so that the sound would not awaken the sleeping palace. Having gone some distance, Gautama cut off his beautiful long hair and took off his ornaments and royal attire. These and his horse Kantaka he sent back with Chandaka. It is said that his horse Kantaka, who loved him very much, turned around for one last look at Gautama. In that moment, Kantaka's heart broke, and he died. For 6 years, Gautama wandered all over Bihar in his quest for true knowledge. He looked for teachers who may be able to show him the path of release from samsara, the endless cycle of life and death in the illusory world. None were able to satisfy him. He subjected himself to the severest austerities in the belief that this would elevate the mind. He denied himself food and water till he was reduced to a skeleton. However, the truth remained beyond his grasp. Seeing the futility of self-mortification, Gautama decided to take nourishment again. This would sustain his body and give him the clarity of mind he desired. He accepted a bowl of sweet rice milk offered to him by a village girl, Sujata. A grass cutter offered him a bundle of soft grass on which to sit. Next to the Niranjana river at the village of Uruvela, Gautama sat down to meditate under a peepal tree. For days he sat in meditation, determined to seek the truth. Mara and his armies, the personifications of our doubts, confusions, and temptations, assailed him from time to time. However, he was unshaken in his meditation and his will to escape the desires and pains of the material world. It was a full moon night. Gautama sat under the tree and continued his quest. Finally, his mind dispelled all the darkness of confusion. He fully realized the truth of the cause of suffering and the path to happiness. After 6 years of struggle, Gautama attained his goal. He had become a Buddha, one who has gained bodhi, the knowledge of the truth.
One man's glorious journey in search of enlightenment was successfully completed. In this, there was the beginning of a great journey for mankind. Gautama Buddha had resolved to preach what he had realized.
Thereafter, the site of the Buddha's enlightenment became one of the most sacred spots. It is today known as Bodh Gaya. A rock edict records Emperor Ashok's visit to Bodh Gaya in the 3rd century BC. Here, he erected a shrine to commemorate the sacred spot. At Sarnath, near Varanasi, the Buddha delivered his first sermon to his 5 former companions. This event is known as the Dharmachakra Pravartana, or the setting into motion of the wheel of law. The Buddha spoke of 4 noble truths. He said, there is dukkha, or suffering. There is samudaya, the cause of suffering. There is nirodha, or the removal of the cause of suffering. And there is marg, or the path leading to the removal of the cause of suffering. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth of sorrow. From birth it begins. Old age causes sorrow. Sickness causes sorrow. Death causes sorrow. Contact with unpleasant things causes sorrow. Separation from pleasant things causes sorrow. And not getting what one wishes for also causes sorrow. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the origin of sorrow. Sorrow arises from craving, which leads to rebirth and a thirst for sensual delights. Desire leads to the seeking of satisfaction, now here, now there. That is to say, the craving for gratification of passions, or the craving for life, or the craving for success. This is the cause of sorrow. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the removal of sorrow. Sorrow shall be gone when desire ceases, and no passion remains. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the way which leads to the removal of sorrow. It is the noble eightfold path. This is the path of moderation. It keeps clear of the two extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. This path is the noble eightfold path of the right views, the right thoughts, the right speech, the right action, the right means of livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right contemplation. Hearing Buddha's enlightened words, the 5 ascetics were at once converted and formed the nucleus of the Buddhist Sangha, or order. The Dhammaik stupa is said to stand at the exact place where the Buddha preached to the 5 ascetics in the deer park. Emperor Ashoka built many great stupas to honor the Buddha. Each of these was called a Dharmarajika stupa, and these contain the holy relics of the Buddha. One of these is at Sarnath. Ashoka also erected many impressive pillars to commemorate events of the Buddha's life. The Ashoka pillar at Sarnath, with its famous capital of 4 lions, was erected at the place where the Buddha established his first Sangha, the Buddhist congregation. The lion capital of this pillar is the national emblem of the Republic of India. The Buddha wandered ceaselessly from place to place in present-day Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. He taught Dharma to all without any distinctions. He and his disciples lived on what they received as alms. This wandering life ceased only in the monsoons, when the rain came down hard. The Buddha frequently visited Rajgir, the capital of the kingdom of Magadha. He spent many monsoons preaching here. After he passed away, the first Buddhist council was convened at this site. Modern-day Rajgir preserves the remains of this ancient past. In these, historians have tried to identify places associated with the events of the Buddhist history. The Buddha preached in the easily understood local dialect of the people. He spoke of universal equality, charity, and logical reasoning. Large numbers flocked to his sermons, and became followers.
At the age of 80, Gautama Buddha headed towards Kushinagara in present-day Uttar Pradesh. There he told his close disciple Ananda that his end was near. Ananda was miserable and he cried bitterly. The Buddha told him not to grieve the loss of his master's transitory self. He said, "Dharma is your refuge."
The Buddha addressed the Sangha one final time and said at the end, "All that comes to existence must fade away. Let your striving alone never come to an end." The year was 483 BC, and these were the Buddha's last words. Following the Buddha's Mahaparinirvana, his relics were distributed among 7 groups of his followers, who enshrined them in stupas. The Pali chronicles tell that Ashoka opened these original stupas and redistributed the relics in other stupas across his lands. Archaeological excavations have shown that the core of the stupas at Sanchi and Amravati date back to Ashoka's period. However, building activity continued at these sites. What is visible today does not belong to the Mauryan period. Since earliest historic times, the kings and the people of this land presented a unique and fascinating culture. There were no portraits of rulers made in ancient India. Emperor Ashoka does not even mention his own name in most of his edicts. He is just referred to as Devanampiya Piyadasi, beloved of the divine, and one whose vision is filled with adoration. Besides his visits to many Buddhist pilgrimage sites, he also excavated great caves out of the hills at Barabar in Bihar. These were made for the ascetic sect of the Ajivikas. Ashoka's inscriptions of the 3rd century BC are a remarkable record of a compassionate and cosmopolitan vision, a vision which has not been surpassed by any ruler till today. He says, "His Sacred Majesty does reverence to men of all sects. A man must not do reverence only to his own sect, while disparaging the sects of others."